Strike me! You've never held back before!
Hey there, Nomads of Lore. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jonathan.
And together we are Mead and Mischief, your home away from no home.
No home at all.
No home at all. We're really excited about this video. This is the first video in a new series that we're doing. In this series, we are going to be discussing literary tropes, themes, ideas, all those kind of things, but we're going to do it through the lens of some of our favorite intellectual properties or IPs, things like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Wheel of Time, all the things that we've been talking about. But we're going to talk about more specific ideas and how they are and give exemplars in those things, so we can kind of educate you and have some fun talking about
educate
cool
you
IPs.
and ourselves.
Yeah, both.
Yep.
Sure. Through the lens of these IPs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be really fun. We're excited about it. So here we go. We also, in these videos, we've been making them, in 20-30 minute range sometimes. These I think are going to be a little shorter. We'll see. About to find out, aren't we? But we wanted to let you know that we are going to put time codes down in the description, which makes the chapter markers, on the bar or whatever, so that you can navigate this video well and you can go to the parts that interest you most.
Yep.
And skip around, make it easier for you.
Yep. So, first question is, why am I moving this? So, first question is, what is a redemption arc? Well,
What is it?
a redemption arc is a piece of a literary device that an author might use to take a character from being bad, quote unquote, to being good at the end of the story. He's redeemed.
Yeah.
And this can be really difficult to do well. It can be hard for, depending on the story and the character and whatever. But who would have thought that one of the best we know of is a show we both love a lot, AtLab.
AtLab.
Or for those of you
Avatar.
that don't speak in awareness,
AtLab.
Avatar: The Last Airbender. So before we go any further, let's make sure to let you know that this is a spoiler-filled, very spoiler-filled episode that we are having for you. It will be going throughout the entire series of Avatar.
Yep.
And so just make sure that if you are wanting to watch it, you probably need to pause here, go watch all of it tonight, and then come back, and you can watch it with us now. So also make sure like, comment, subscribe down below, and tell us your favorite episode of Avatar.
Absolutely. We are going to break this up into 3 different categories because these aren't the only ways that make the redemption arc inside of Avatar: The Last Airbender particularly good. These are the 3 that we wanted to highlight. Just another warning, about to start saying words. Spoiler warning. So this, if you have watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, we're talking about Zuko, of course, his redemption arc. The 3 categories where it is excellent, it is a masterclass in this topic, is foreshadowing, nonlinearity, and contrast. Let's dive into what those are.
Awesome. So let's get started with foreshadowing. There are several times that the redemption arc of Zuko is foreshadowed. There's a lot of scenes that we see where he is actually good or has done something good in his past or whatever, and it shows just a little bit of that shell start to break away. There's a lot of stuff to do with Uncle Iroh.
Absolutely.
You can definitely tell that there's a lot of good in that man, and he is pretty much at this point throughout the series Zuko's father, even though he has a father still. So probably the third area that we see a little bit of foreshadowing is the moments of kindness that Zuko has in several of his relationships. Specifically, it's a little bit later on, but this kid that he gives the dagger to, and of course that doesn't really work out. That whole thing kind of turns around and almost makes you think for a second anyway that it's going bad, you know.
Yeah.
And then also the little girlfriend that he gets in the tea shop, being real sweet and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, I think one reason is because us as viewers just really want it to happen, because as you're watching it, you see it and you're like, I really think that this should happen.
Yeah, I was. We were talking earlier. You know, I was remembering because I had watched the show before Jonathan did, and so when Jonathan was watching through it, and he'd call me sometimes or whatever, and say, "Oh yeah, this happened. Oh man, it was awesome." I remember one of the first times we were talking about that. It's like, I think Zuko's gonna turn good, but I can't. I'm not sure.
I was rooting for it.
I think that seems obvious or whatever. So it's very definitely foreshadowed, and you feel like that's gonna be a thing for sure. Absolutely. The second way in which this is a beautiful, amazing, super well-written redemption arc is its non-linearity. You know, a lot of times in movies, TVs, books, if you see a redemption arc, if that happens, a lot of times kind of the way it works is the character is bad for a while and it's bad. You might see a little bit of struggling in their head. There might be some foreshadowing. But, you know, a lot of times there will be an inciting incident and they decide to turn good, and then they're just good and great from there on out. And that's very common, which is one of the ways where it's not as good. It's not as interesting, it's not as compelling, it's not as believable, all that stuff. So,
and sometimes it's hard for you as the watcher or listener, reader, whatever it is, to really get behind. To get behind that character, because you're like, he's been bad for so long. I haven't seen any good from this character. All of a sudden he's good, and I don't like it. You know?
And it can be whiplash. I mean, there are really, really crappy ones, and then so
I can think of some off the top of my head. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, that's another video. So this, like we said, this redemption arc is foreshadowed early, and you start to see these things. And Iroh we see more and more him kind of leading Zuko and trying to help him make these good choices and learn that he doesn't have to be under the shadow of his father and his sister and all that stuff. More on that in a minute. But he is kind of slowly, you feel like he's slowly making progress, kind of, and you can see the thoughts, and you can, there's these moments where he's contemplating and speaking about things, and it goes to a head, and we've seen in another video that we made, where in the episode Crossroads of Destiny, the season 2 finale, we can link that video where we talk about season 2 up here in the iCard, or up there, whichever side, I don't know what side it's on. But anyway, there, sure, why not?
I think.
Do the little dancey dance. Okay, anyway, all that to say, we talked about this, and it's still true that title, that Crossroads of Destiny title, really refers to Zuko, especially, probably even more so than Aang at that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, his crossroads, and, he has that moment with Katara, and you can see, and they have this connection, and you think, oh, okay, this is it. He's going to turn good, and he's going to go and join the Avatar, and he's going to train him in firebending and all that stuff. It's going to happen. And so this all goes down, and then Azula's there, and this moment happens, and he chooses wrong. And so this thing that we've been rooting for, has been foreshadowed. We're like, oh man, it didn't work, and he chooses to betray his uncle and to join Azula,
which you never thought would happen.
Right, exactly, and it's astonishing. So that happens, and then of course that happens, and you see it puts him into turmoil. Physical, spiritual, mental turmoil. He thinks, he looks at his life, he's like, oh my gosh, I've got everything I ever wanted. My dad loves me, and my sister doesn't hate me and isn't trying to kill me anymore. We all as the audience realize, you're just in la la land. This is not true at all. But you see him struggle with that, and you get this nice interaction with him and May, and all this stuff happens. And he continues to be in turmoil, and his uncle is gone, and it's just it's everything he wanted, he thought, and he's made his choice, and he's going to be bad and whatever else, but it's not good enough, and so he continues to go back and forth. And Then, up until the second moment, one of the coolest moments in the whole show, in my opinion, is when he finally does decide to follow the truth that Iroh has spoken into his life all along, and he decides to turn good, and he confronts his father, the day of Black Sun. And that moment is like, makes you cry. I mean, it's just so well done and well shot. He goes, of course, his father is powerless, right? And he doesn't have his bending, and so he goes and he confronts him. Then, leading up until a super perfect writing shot moment, that moment where, at the end, it turns it around and uses a technique that Iroh taught him, and he redirects lightning, and he leaves, and he makes that choice. And so, again, in a lot of shows, TVs, books, movies, that would be it. He'd be good now. Everybody would accept him, and yay, happiness. And we've gone back and forth that we probably could have accepted that, but it still wouldn't have been as good as what they did, because he still struggles. And we still see those moments of him trying to be accepted, and the way they did with Katara, almost never quite fully accepting him until the very end, and that struggle there, and him still making mistakes, and all of these things. He continues to go back and forth, and it's just so much more believable, so much more compelling, and it's gorgeous.
Something I was thinking of while you're talking about that also is that they do such a good job in this show of helping, because it's difficult in cartoon to see facial expressions.
Right.
You don't have like all the intricacies that a face will do. I mean, you could get really detailed and do that, but it would take a lot.
Yeah.
And so they do a really good job in this specific show using those moments of pause and all the different shots that they do to help this very thing go along. Anyway.
Absolutely. I agree completely.
So finally, the third reason that this is one of the best redemption stories is simply because of the contrast when you compare Zuko's story to Azula's story. There's many times you look at Azula and her basically fall from grace at the end. You see those last few episodes, and you realize that, you know, she, instead of reaching out and needing people, reaching out and trying to get help, basically, like which was like cry out for help like he does. She just uses people, and every time she does that, those people start to hate her more and more, and she starts to hate herself more and more. And then it eventually comes to the point where, you know, Zuko's like, oh, I know what you're going to say, Uncle Iroh. I need to just forgive her and figure out somehow how to make peace or whatever. And Uncle Iroh's like, no, she's crazy and we need to get rid of her. And so that contrast between those two stories just makes his so much more powerful, because she could have had that very same redemption story. And she had all kinds of opportunity for that to happen. That was what was really cool, is there were so many times that you saw she had an opportunity. She just every time chose the wrong thing to do. So
absolutely.
Great story.
Super great.
If you haven't checked out, I mean, we've told you lots of spoilers, but if you haven't checked out, it's still so worth watching.
I've rewatched the show at least 3 times. and it's great. And we'll watch it again.
For sure.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell button and all those other things.
That's right.
Let us know in the comments, what are your favorite Avatar, Last Airbender episodes, moments, ideas. What else can we talk about? What other things are cool that you'd love to hear from us? We'll see you later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
What's the title of that?
Something.
Simile.
The titular title. Great googly moogly.
Oh no.
It's phantasmagorical creatures, things, and something.
Hey there, man.
Always go with the bigger number.
Right.
This is laughing.
And I'm Jonathan.